actually than the GT4.
Good morning, comrades, or actually beautiful evening, beautiful sunset here at the Nürburgring, and what a beautiful year it has been. We together with you through the channel, and we with you people who let me drive their cars or took me out on passengers. It's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you everyone who has been giving me their cars or taking me with them for a passenger lap, and simply all of you watching this video. And today I would like to do a recap of my most, I would say, favorite, impressive, amazing and mesmerizing rides that I had this year. It was very hard to go through them because it's the highest amount of cars that I've driven ever. Like even the previous years combined didn't come this close. And if your car didn't make it to the list, it was still very much memorable, but some of them stood out for whatever reason, not necessarily being more expensive or fast or. So let me just jump straight to it and mention some of them. And I want to start up with actually a group of cars, or I would say group of drivers, namely so-called disabled drivers. Disabled because although they have a physical disability, most of the time they can either not walk, but when it comes to driving on the track, they have more ability than the average driver. So this year we had Phil from France in the GT3 RS.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Really enjoying it. Very impressive, very smooth driving. Then we had the KTM crossbow, the GT2 crossbow, with Marcus, who is missing one arm, and he was still driving extremely smooth and smoother than people would do with two arms. So smooth actually that I fell asleep at a certain point, and you could see that on the video because that was just like a simply sign of how much I was trusting him, and I was like how smooth he was driving. So that was very good for me to experience, to have a nap on a very fast car. Then we had Alex with the M2 competition. That was the fastest lap I've ever experienced, definitely with a disabled person, and one of the fastest in the M2 ever. This was absolutely bonkers. And then we had Adrian with his not Caterham, Donkerford manual transmission car. And also that was impressive to see that you don't need to have legs to be able to operate even clutch. So to those people, amazing, keep going, and I hope to be able to experience more of these type of stories in coming years, and of course also go out for more laps with them. Now moving on to other cars. One of my absolute highlights was probably the 996 GT3 MR. That made me fall in love with the car, and even that I was saying, and even now, what is your favorite or ultimate car for the track? I would say after driving that 996 GT3 MR, because the way, the amount of driver engagement that you get, the heel and toe when you nail it, it was really amazing, and that was definitely one of the top ones. Then actually a group of cars, AMG GT series, because this year I managed to drive for the very first time AMG GTR with my friend Lucas.
But you know what? My easy lap, warming lap, it doesn't look like that. It's much more easier, calm.
Then we had AMG GTR Pro, which had a failing power steering pump, which was quite interesting.
Steering is very tight. Yes. No, it's something's wrong.
And then finally, of course, with Lucas from Opus, I drove the Opus Black Series, which is, I think, the most viewed video this year. I think close to 2 million views at this point. So it was it was a very impressive car. Of course, unfortunately, we had traffic, etc. But this group of cars was really impressive to have driven all of them. We just haven't driven the AMG GTS, the very first one, but next time we should try to aim to go for a GT4 or a GT3 or a track series or. But that's a wishful thinking for next. Speaking of series of cars, we also had GT3 RSs. I said it was the first time that I drove a GT3 RS 911.2 Mark this year, and people ask like, haven't you driven GT3 RS before? Yes, but the Mark 1. I think it was even 3 or 4 years ago, and there's not even a video of that because I was not that much into YouTube back then. But now we had the GT3 RS, the normal one, GT3 RS with Manthey suspension, and finally, of course, this was actually also, I think, the very last car I drove this year, the GT3 RS MR on Manthey Racing Track Day, and that was also one of the, I think it was the fastest lap I did ever, considering it was like the fastest first lap of the car. So that showed how easy and how fast the car is, and that was an amazing experience of its own. One more final mention of Porsche, another impressive car, a car that I remembered, the Cayenne Turbo GT, which is currently the fastest SUV around the Nürburgring. Drove it together with Maggie, with my girlfriend, and that was also mind-blowing to see how SUV can handle on the track. Definitely up there, so thank you very much, Mr. Track Car, for allowing me to drive the car. It was absolutely amazing. Moving on to the next, again, a whole pack of cars, because I don't want to mention them individually. It's actually a big shout out to American cars. First time I drove the Mustang this year, first with the paddle shift transmission, then later on the manual. Impressed a lot.
Love it so far. Very well neutral, very well set up car.
Had a ride in a Viper SRT10 with, it was like what, 8.4 liters or 9.3. It was big displacement, yeah, big boy, and it was very fast. Had a ride in a Camaro, one early, not ZL1 or other way around, but yeah, again, lots of US cars that made me go like, okay, this is really good. Very cool to experience them, and really impressed me, and mention it always throughout the video that it took away the stigma of being European, watching Top Gear as a kid where they said like, oh, American cars cannot turn. Not true anymore whatsoever. Hope to be able to drive Shelby GT350 or GT500 in the future. This is definitely something I want to experience. Now, another group of cars, again, it's a group of cars because I cannot fit them, there's so many of them, are actually slow or cars not intended to be track cars, but they end up being like creating the most fun, laughing laps. So for example, with one of the most remarkable, we had the Saab, the convertible. We were just like laughing, and
That's good. Oh, whoa! Fast GT3 RS behind us. Send it, boys. Oh, it's holy shit.
Speaking of laughing, then later we had the Citroen Xara when we were just like drifting, or the car was losing control when we were going like 20 kilometers per hour and our heads were hurting from laughing.
It's so oh shit.
Then we had the Alfa Romeo from Poland, the GTD, JETD, also very fun lap. And I think a couple of more. So this brings me to a point that if you have like a really car that's not there for the track, and you want to have fun, and I have time, I'll happily hop in with you for a lap, either on a passenger seat or driving seat. I don't care, video, no video. We should have some fun. It's definitely they end up being actually the most fun cars. There's also one car that hasn't been published yet, but you will see in one of the upcoming videos that falls under that category of being slow car, but actually ending up being very fun. Then lots of rides that I had with various YouTubers this year. Started off the year with Bilstein. I took Matt Watson out in the Bilstein Supra. Amazing lap, amazing experience.
Right curve, jump, sideways.
This is a lot scarier actually than the GT4.
Yes, because you don't have the downforce.
Yeah.
And followed throughout many more experiences. We had the BMW 1 Series from Hampshire Photography.
There was a bit of a drift there. 161. Yeah, no.
couple of more, and then ended the year with a massive trip of YouTubers from UK, where we had Jamie from Officially Gassed, we had Michael Schublacher, also one of the top viewed videos of this year, of course Calvin with the Transit.
Pushing him too.
No!
Yes.
Oh, sorry, there's the VW van.
There it is.
No way!
Then we had the modified Golf 1 from Motor Addicts.
How fast is this?
230 probably. Come on.
Oh, my.
Come on. There we go.
Oh.
We had also Evo GT with RS4 and plenty more. And speaking of YouTubers, in comparison to last year and the years before, I done only one lap with Shmi in this SF90. Shmi, come on. You should come back. We need to do more laps together.
It scares me how fast this is. Yep.
Probably, to be honest, the most impressive cars and the story behind it was Lapo's Opel Speedster that he built himself in terms of aerodynamics. The car was generating more downforce without the wing, with other aerodynamic mods, than average car with spoilers and wings and everything. Absolutely blown away by his skills to build such a car and being so humble about it. Make sure to watch the video if you haven't seen it before. He by now actually has received upgraded suspension from Bilstein. He's making even more aggressive aerodynamic kit, more powerful engine, and he will be back next year, so we'll be doing something crazy together. I'm very much looking forward to be driving that car again in its new shape and form. What else comes on my mind? The G42, the M240. First drove it with Paul, his completely stock car. Then from BMW themselves, the manufacturer, I got the car for 2 weeks, drove many laps. I was kind of like, okay, I loved the car, but on track it's like, okay, suspension was not really that I liked. It was a bit soft, the brakes were not up to spec. Then Paul upgraded his with just like lowering springs, different wheels, tires, and that was absolutely like, oh my god, the car was completely transformed.
I don't even want to look at the speedometer. Speed limit! You need to de-restrict it, bro!
And also he's getting new suspension for next year, so we're gonna get probably more laps with that car, and I'm looking forward to that. But it was actually quite impressive platform to drive. Another thing that pops on my mind, 600 LT that I drove this year. Also extremely fun. We had lots of laughing on the lap itself. There was also quite a nice correction, and we had so much fun that actually we ran out of fuel. Almost.
Oh, it's fuel. Oh, we're in 0%.
We drove half a lap with 0% fuel according to the dash. Thanks McLaren, but luckily we made it all off the track and it was good. And I think that's pretty much it. Of course, if I have to mention all the cars that impressed me, and there were pretty much all of them, because there were so many unforgettable experiences, but it's going to be extremely long video, which it already is, because combined I drove probably over 200 cars, then additional passenger rides, etc, etc. So yeah, it's been again amazing year, amazing in terms of having experiences on the most beautiful racetrack in the world, and I hope we can continue that. So for that, I'm very much looking forward to be doing a lot more laps next year. I have a couple of surprises for you. There might be even a project car coming and something else, but looking forward to sharing and creating more experiences with you. So for that, thank you very much, and see you upcoming year on the track. Bye bye.